Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very, very accomplished branding and career guru from Brisbane, Australia, Wendy Pavey. Wendy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ashutosh. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Wendy is a brand and career strategist. She's the founder of Executive Brand and a lead instructor for Executive Cadence. And she's an author, and all of you know I'm always very, very partial to authors. She's an author of a book titled Personal Brand 101 and the C-Suite Guide to LinkedIn, as well as she has an upcoming book which is titled You Are the Leader. So Wendy, before we start talking about branding, tell me your own journey in brief.
So my journey began when I began studying journalism. I was passionate about being a journalist and very attracted to the idea of communicating the truth. But of course, you do quickly realize when you work in the news media that it isn't really about that. So interestingly, then I switched my university studies to political science. Now, why I thought that would be more about the truth, I'm not sure. But nevertheless, I did gain a degree in political science and worked for politicians for a couple of years. But as many young people find, you go into it and you're so idealistic and you're so passionate about it, and you just have quite a negative experience. So I'd made some useful media contacts and I thought I would make a career on the other side of the media, so working in communication and public relations. And I was very lucky to work with some iconic global consumer brands as a brand strategist. So I worked for Apple and Gillette, Gatorade, Nokia. What I realized was that, these brands are some of our biggest advertisers and sponsors of events and sports. And they do that because they know they need to keep in front of us. They need to keep in front of consumers. If they don't, we forget about them. Or maybe we choose some, new exciting brand that comes along. Now, it's actually the same for us in our careers, that we need to make sure we stay in front of the people that can give us the jobs that we want, so that they remember us, so that they think of us. So that was the link between working for consumer brands and then working for personal brands. And now my work is working with individuals. My purpose is to elevate transformative leaders into the pinnacle roles for our most significant enterprises.
Very interesting.
Sometimes
very interesting. No, please go ahead.
I was going to say that often those leaders who have the potential to be transformative are not, shall we say, the usual suspects. They're not perhaps the typical person. And this is the thinking behind the book that I'm working on now. It's to inspire people that they are the leader that their organization, that their company needs.
Very interesting. So let's now talk about personal branding, and you have a book also, Personal Brand 101. What are the key elements of a strong personal brand, and why is it important in today's landscape?
The key element of a personal brand is, just like any other brand, it's differentiation. Brands exist to help us choose between things that are fundamentally very similar. So we need to have that point of difference, why we would be chosen for a role over someone else who very likely has got very similar qualifications and experience to us. We need something that is going to stand us apart. Absolutely, a strong personal brand is built on value, the value that you can deliver. I don't mean values with an S, like integrity and authenticity. I mean the business value that you can deliver. That's what matters. That's what's important. That's how you get a promotion. That's how you get a leadership position, because people understand that you can deliver that value. That's why they choose you.
Well,
I have a
please go
model
ahead.
for a brand which I call Say, Show, Seen, and it's 4 things that people need to know. You need to know what to say, how to say it, how to show it, and how to be seen. So those things are about, being consistent, being credible, being connected. This is how you communicate the value that you can bring.
Very interesting. So, so I've often heard a lot of young people say, why should I talk about myself? Let my work do the talking. What would you say to them?
Well, unfortunately, just to sit and hope that your good work gets rewarded is probably the biggest mistake that I see people make. They think that, well, if I just turn up and I do my job and I do it well, people will realize that and I'll be recognized. But that rarely happens. Typically, that person gets overlooked. And then they'll come to me and say, oh, I feel like I'm being overlooked, or I seem to be stuck in my career. You need to be proactive about getting in front of the people who are the decision makers for the role that you want, in exactly the same way as a consumer brand has to get in front of customers. We need to know what they have for us. We need to know what are they selling and what can it do for us. We need to look at ourselves in the same way that we have to proactively say to people, I would be a great leader of that project or that business unit or that company. We have to take responsibility for that.
Very interesting. My next question to you is that, there's also a lot of discussion about becoming a thought leader when you talk about personal branding. What, in your opinion, are ways in which an individual can actually build upon their personal brand?
So to be a true thought leader is to be about advancing the thinking. That's quite a big ask for a lot of people, and especially for young people who might feel, well, I'm just at the beginning of my career and I don't feel like I have much that I can lead. But you can definitely contribute. Maybe you go on a journey of learning about a topic and you share that journey with other people. You build your brand, visibility of your brand by sharing your learning. So you don't need to set yourself up as an expert to say, oh, I'm a thought leader in this space.
Correct.
But to say, well, how can I facilitate a conversation? Maybe they can do what you're doing here, Ashutosh, and they can interview people who are leaders in their company or in their field to say, what can the rest of us learn? You don't need to be a guru. You can just be a learner. You can be a listener, and that will itself build your personal brand.
Well said. Thank you. My next question is about how important is the role of storytelling and authenticity when it comes to personal branding, and how can individuals harness these kind of qualities to stand out?
Well, authenticity is critical for any brand, not just a personal brand. I mean, it's key because we can detect a phony, can't we?
Correct.
We get that sense of something isn't right. Maybe we can't quite put our finger on it, but we know something isn't right. And look, you just can't keep up the pretense. It's like trying to talk in an accent that's not your own. Eventually, it's going to slip.
Yep.
So authenticity is key, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But storytelling is really about making it easy for the other person to connect to you. Especially if you are a leader or you want to be a leader, you want to communicate in a way that makes you relatable, that shows that you understand, so that it's more approachable and even a little more vulnerable, because you want to you want to build relationships with people and stories, not telling, not teaching. People, especially young people, typically do not enjoy being talked to or talked at. But if you can share stories of what your experience was, how you found something you tried, then that makes it so much easier for other people to engage. It's about a conversation. Now, the only thing you need to be mindful of is that if you're going to tell stories, don't make them too long and rambling, because that gets, people tune out. And you just need to know, what's the point I want to communicate? And then try and say that as simply as possible. Then give the other person the opportunity to contribute something themselves. That's a conversation, is when we're both talking, rather than just someone talking at the other person.
Well said. Thank you. My next question is that how can an individual assess whether their personal brand is effectively aligned with their career goals and aspirations? And of course, one recommendation I would have is to ring up Wendy Pavey. But other than that, what else can they do?
Look, there's a really simple way to know if your personal brand is helping you with your career aspirations. And that is, are you on the path to where you want to go? Are you actually moving forwards? Because if you're stuck, or if you can't see how you're going to get from where you are now to where you want to be, then your brand is out of alignment, or what you have just isn't effective. You don't have enough of a personal brand. You don't have enough visibility. Sometimes people say, I hear colleagues say they get phone calls from recruiters offering them jobs, and that's not happening for me. What am I doing wrong? Well, that's a great sign that you don't have the visibility, probably on platforms like LinkedIn or other professional platforms. So people don't know you. And if they don't know you, how will they know to contact you? It can't happen. So if you feel stuck, if you can't see that you are on that career path, then your brand isn't working effectively for you.
Wonderful. And since you mentioned LinkedIn, a lot of people often ask me that how can they use social media to be able to actually communicate their own personal brands? And there seems to be this little fallacy that if I have a lot of likes, people know me. I'd love to get your perspective.
Absolutely. I think all social media uses some of this gamification where, likes and shares, and we tend to interpret that as an endorsement of the quality of our opinions. Of course, it is not. And you might see sometimes that those are referred to as vanity metrics, where it's actually just about how many likes can I get. I think platforms like LinkedIn can be incredibly useful for those sorts of conversations that we were talking about before, where you've got this ready-made platform where you can share, and it can get you in front of people that you don't currently know. So it's very valuable for that. But you always want to keep the focus on, how is this going to help me move forward in my career? And, popularity is not necessarily going to help you in your career. No one is going to see the number of likes you've got. My advice is always to make it about that sharing, about starting conversations, rather than how can I just, make myself seem more important. That's never going to be effective, and it's not healthy. It's not good for your mental health to be judging yourself on your popularity.
Correct. And one of the other questions that I've often been asked, and I'm going to ask you the same question, is that how can an individual determine what is their unique value proposition? And why is this so critical for developing one's personal brand?
So it is, as I said before, value is the cornerstone of an effective brand, because it is about how can you help others achieve what they want to achieve? How can you help the company, your employer, to get where they want to go? Because everybody benefits.
Right.
So I have a method that I call executive cadence. It helps you identify your value and ensures that you know what to say about the value you can deliver. Because you also need to make sure that the value you deliver is aligned with your career goals. Because if it isn't, well, it won't help you get where you want to go.
Right.
You might say, "Oh, I'm all about maybe helping a company expand their geographical footprint." But if that isn't what the company actually needs to do or wants to do, then you're out of alignment between the value. So you need to think about what would be the most valuable thing that I could do in the role that I want, and make sure that what you say is in alignment. And that is a great question to ask mentors or others in your professional industry about how you can position yourself.
Interesting. Thank you. My next question is on networking, Wendy. How important is networking in one's career and to build one's personal brand?
Well, look, I think we all know that most jobs do come through our networks rather than through ads or job boards.
Right.
The way to build that network is just to start getting involved. And you can do that at your company level, to get involved with, what activities does the company do with its employees, with its community? Get involved with your profession, with the professional body, with your industry. There's bound to be some industry association or peak body, some organization in your region, and just begin that process of helping others to achieve what they want to achieve. Always when you're connecting, you want to make it about what you can do for them and not what they can do for you. There's a great little book. It's only a short book because, as we're saying, we don't want to put people off with huge books. But there's a little short book called The Go Giver. So not Go Getter, but Go Giver. Amazing. And it tells a great story about it's so much more important to start from that process of, how can I help you? How can I help you do what you need to do? Let's not worry about me. How can I help you? Because when it comes to networks, it's not so important that it's a big network, but that it is strong, that you've got warm professional relationships, not just about being connected with someone on LinkedIn, but that you've gotten to know that person, and maybe you've done something to help them. Correct. That is what will serve you, not just about, oh, look how many connections I've got on LinkedIn, but that people, particularly if adversity befalls you in your career. And for most of us, we will have that moment where something happens out of our control. What you need are those people that you can contact and say, this has happened. Could you please help me? Well said. That is more important than size.
Well said. And therefore, a follow-up question to what you just told me, and that after this question, I'm going to move to your books. What is the role of mentors and coaches in one's career and to develop one's personal brand?
Mentors are incredibly valued. There's studies that show that people who have a mentor or a supporter are more successful in their careers. And interestingly, mentors, so people who do the mentoring, also get career benefits from it as well. So it is really valuable. What is key is that when you're thinking about a mentor, you need the right mentor to support your career goals. And the way you work that out is to understand what you need. So do you need advice on what skills you'd have to step up to that next role? Do you need introductions to people? Think about what your needs are. That's what you want to ask potential mentors. It's not just going up to a well-known person like yourself and saying, well, please, would you mentor me? Because you want to know if you can help this person.
Correct.
So when you're able to say, I think I need to build my skills in having difficult conversations, and you think, oh, well, I've got a lot of experience, I know I can help you.
Right.
And my other tip is be very specific about what you're asking for, rather than just saying, oh, can you mentor me? Because I don't know what that might involve. So I'm more likely to say no. But if you say to me, I would like to have a Zoom call once a month for 45 minutes. Well, now I know what's involved. And that makes it much easier for me to say whether I will or will not be involved. If you make it too vague, it could be anything.
Correct. Well said. So now let me move to your books, Wendy. You have 3 books, 2 published, one's coming out soon. Before I ask you any questions, let me ask all our viewers and listeners to go and check out Wendy Pavey's book. I will go and check out her books as well. So tell me a little bit about your books.
So the Personal Brand 101 is simply that. It is an introduction to some basic concepts in personal branding and walks you through how you build that. So looking at those elements like value, as we've talked about, like your skills and your experience and the successes you've had, and how you use them to draw together this personal brand. And then critically, how you use that across all these key touch points. So obviously LinkedIn, as we've talked, but also on your CV, your resume, and whatever other touch points you might have. There might be other social media that you use in addition to LinkedIn. Because what we want with brand is consistency across the different touch points. We don't want to see that, oh, in one place you say you do this and something, in another place you say something different. That makes us feel uncertain about what does this person actually do. So you want that consistency. So that's just a short ebook that sets out the basics of building a personal brand. The C-suite guide to LinkedIn is much more detailed. It's really about 4 senior executives who have typically an executive assistant who would help them to have a presence on LinkedIn. Many CEOs and senior leaders are very time poor, and it's just not a priority. The disadvantage is that when they come to the end of that role, or maybe they want to transition from being a CEO to a portfolio career, then they suddenly find that they don't have the connections, they don't have the visibility, because they've been invisible on platforms like LinkedIn for too long. So that's really a step-by-step guide to how you can manage your LinkedIn profile. And with the book that I'm working on now, You Are the Leader, as I said, that's all about inspiring and encouraging people who think that they are not the leader, who think, I'll never be a CEO. I think you are the person who's got the most possibility of being transformative, because you're not coming in with all those preconceptions and this is the way we do things and this is what's worked. Instead, you're bringing all that energy and those fresh ideas. That's what companies need. We don't need more of the same. We're the same few people, or the same type of person is always the leader. Australia is a country that really performs very, very poorly with diversity for its biggest listed companies. And part of my work is to try and tackle that problem by saying to people, it doesn't matter what language you were born speaking, it doesn't matter what you look like or where you've come from. Almost certainly, when you're inside an organization, you can see things that we could do better, different things that we can do, new customers we could pursue, new markets. Those are the ideas that the people at the top do not have. And that's why I want to inspire people, different people, diverse people, to step up to leadership.
Amazing. Well, good luck with the book when it comes out. Then maybe we can have another conversation then. But my last question to you, Wendy, and this is for the thousands of people who will listen to our conversation. Based on your amazing understanding of branding and personal branding, what would you say are 3 lessons you would want our viewers and listeners to take away from our conversation?
First and foremost, be proactive. Don't wait to be recognized and hope that your hard work will be rewarded. Because the saddest conversations that I have are with people who've sometimes served for decades in a company and they've never had that recognition. So please, if there's something you want in your career, go out after it. The second thing is that before you have these conversations where you ask for a promotion or you ask for an opportunity, be prepared, have your evidence ready. If you say, I deserve to lead this project because, make sure that you can show that. Make sure you've got the information that helps people choose you. You've got to persuade. You've got to convince people.
Yeah.
Just saying, oh, it's my time. I deserve it. I've been here the longest. That won't succeed. So you need to prepare for those conversations. And then the third thing I think is, and we've touched on this already, it's always to seek first to help others rather than this is what I want and who's going to help me do it. Instead, it's like, how can you help others? Put the focus on them and not on you. And that will be the most successful way in growing that really strong network.
How wonderful. And on that note, Wendy, and your 3 amazing lessons: be proactive, don't wait to be recognized, be prepared when you go for a conversation with data and information. And third one is, which is so powerful and so important to point out, that help others first. Don't always put the I as your first priority. Thank you, Wendy, for speaking to me about your journey. Thank you for speaking to me at such length about personal branding. And I'm sure a lot of our viewers and listeners will take a lot of tips from all the thoughts you expressed in our conversation today. Thank you for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.